All right, why don't we go ahead and call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Monday, December 1st, 2025. Thank you all for joining. Could I get a motion to go into executive session, please? Sarah moves, Mike second, all in favor? Okay, let's log out of this meeting. We'll go into executive session and we will be right back. Okay, it looks like we're all back. So could I please get a motion to go back into regular session for the Board of Selectmen meeting? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Good. All right, back in regular session. All right, let's kick off with the first Selectman's report. So a couple of things over the last few weeks. One is I just want to do a shout out again to the Sustainability Committee, and particularly Carolyn Bane, Lauren Rossi, and Mohan Hiamanta, who worked so hard to get a renewal of our silver certification for Connecticut sustainability. They put in a ton of work into this effort, and just the whole committee and everybody involved in that was terrific. Because Wednesday, November 19th, I got to get a picture with all those folks who did all this great work. But I think that's an important thing for the town, and just wanted to applaud them again for that effort. This past Friday after Thanksgiving, I had a chance to kick off the Darien Depot's overstuffed turkey trot. And I can tell you that there were significant casualties, but they were all calories accumulated from the prior day's festivities. We had multiple hundreds of people show up for that, kids, adults, people older than me. I mean, really something. I should be in the race myself next year, and I will endeavor to do that. Anyway, but thanks for the depot for organizing that. And similarly, this past Sunday, we had the tree lighting over at the Darien Sports Shop, and Joe Warren was there again playing the role of Santa. We had a slightly smaller crowd this year because of the weather, but it actually cleared up and stopped raining and turned out to be actually an okay evening. So I appreciate Joe being there, as well as everyone else who organized this, particularly the Parks and Rec group here in Town Hall, and Jen Fava, who braved the weather as well. Thanks to her and her team for setting all that up. One other thing I did want to mention is a week from today are the State of the Town addresses. So 4 board chairs will give updates for their various boards. Myself as first selectman, chairman of the Board of Finance, Board of Education, and Planning and Zoning, as we do every year. And those meetings will be, again, next Monday, and they'll be carried live. So please stop by if you can, or certainly tune into those discussions. Based on a question I got today, I'll preempt one comment I have, which is in that address, which will be around the Pedestrian Infrastructure Advisory Committee. I'll talk in more detail about that, but I do want to formally kick that off, and it'll be structured kind of as a building committee. The Board of Selectmen will do a formal vote on it, but I do want to, it's a discussion we've been having for a long time, and I know there's lots of interest in pedestrian infrastructure, but all that will be kicked off with the formal vote of the Board of Selectmen, hopefully at our next meeting on the 15th. But I'll be talking about how we'd like to structure this in the State of the Town address next Monday. So that is all the comments I have for my report. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, very good. Next item up for discussion are board liaison reports. We'll start off with Marcy.
Sure. So on November 18th, we had our first Peartree Building Committee meeting that took place via Zoom in the evening. And at that point, it was just kind of a basic overview of our charge. And we sat our executive committee, or the chair and the vice chair and our secretary. Going forward, our first official meeting where we'll get some information about the progress of the project will happen on Wednesday. Via Zoom at 4 o'clock. So I'll have an update on where we are. They've started some of the work down there. If anyone's been down, you'll see some sandbags have been moved, and some trucks are arriving, but we'll get a full update from our contractors on Wednesday, and I'll be able to report on our next meeting on where we stand.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Mr. Burke.
The Late Review Board met on November 12th. Our next meeting is December 10th. We reviewed the 6 properties currently on the list. 2 have been resolved since our last meeting, so we're pleased with that direction. And we will be talking with the Board of Selectmen about, there are two properties that have been recommended for foreclosure. So at some point, we will discuss that as a board and recommend or not to council.
Okay.
That's it.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, Monica.
Hi, everyone. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a chance to get out to Great Island. We have the furniture delivered. So we have the picnic tables and the benches joining the Adirondack chairs that were already put out. All of the furniture that will be out for the winter is out. We're doing a little test case with some of the bistro furniture down by the Pink House to see how that works. But the furniture by the stables will stay indoors until springtime. As far as early access goes, the early access RFP, the request for proposals, was issued by the town on November 24th, and Jen has posted it on the town website. The main focus for this phase is accessibility. Accessibility, parking for cars, for bikes, and ADA compliant spaces. And this also will cover some basic work we need to do to get people out there safely, roadway work, drainage, utilities, sewer, that kind of work. And bids are due on January 15th. Work on 23A is continuing through Public Works. The retaining walls have been poured and backfilled, and DPW expects to review a mock-up of the stone facade on those stone walls in the next week or so the contractor can order the materials with the longer winter lead times that we have. You also start to see some activity in the front by the gates and those pillars. That work should be getting underway in the next couple of weeks. And throughout the winter, the contractor will focus on utilities, drainage, and whatever work can be done safely in the colder weather. The main roadway work, including the final paving, is planned for late spring. Let's call it May-ish, depending on temperatures. And that's it. Thank you.
Questions for Monica? And finally, Sarah.
Hey everyone, I don't have an update from Thriving Youth Darien. They just had their last meeting and I don't have the minutes yet, so I will get that to you as soon as possible. Their next meeting will be January 15th on Zoom. For the Henley Homes and Royal Building Committee, we had our last meeting on the 19th. And right now it's very exciting because we have some funds left over from Prudent Financial Management, and they're putting together a small wish list of items for the schools, which is being vetted and worked through to see what these items would entail. They're not significant items. We've been asked to make sure that we're not adding anything that would be something that would then be required to have at other schools, such as Tokenique and Ox Ridge. They're smaller items and specific to that school. Benches in an area, for example, or fixing something at one school. So the principals are excited about that. Work is continuing, and the aim is to have everything finished for fall of 26. So it has been great. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, December 15th, if I have that date correct.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Okay. Next up is public comment. Public comments. Jennifer, do we have anyone for public comments?
We do have a few people online, so if someone is interested, you can raise your hand. I do see in the chat that Natalie Tallis would like to speak.
Okay. Natalie, you are recognized for 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here this evening to say that, Natalie Tallis, 34 Baywater Drive in Darien, on an issue that's coming up later, that I support the creation of a conservation committee in Darien, but I respectfully urge that the process move forward on a significantly shorter timeline than the one-year schedule currently proposed. While Darien has several committees that touch on conservation issues, the absence of centralized coordination and clear leadership has resulted in decisions being made in silos. This has too often produced outcomes that unintentionally favor developers or narrow interests rather than the broader community. A recent example is the town's consideration of developing the Short Lane property, a proposal influenced in part by the fact that P&Z did not require meaningful green space in our new high-density apartment complexes. Parks and Rec's intentions were understandable to create more outdoor space for the influx of new residents. However, had meaningful open space been required of developers from the outset, the town would not have felt pressured to pursue development in a fragile coastal area. Similarly, our zoning regulations and allow an interpretation of things like public plazas so minimal that it can result in a lone bench on a thin strip of grass beside a parking lot. That's not conservation or preservation. These are precisely the types of decisions that would benefit from a consistent conservation and open space lens. Compounding this challenge, the town has no dedicated environmental staff. For instance, the Great Island Advisory Committee lacked access to ecological expertise that would have highlighted the importance, John loves this, of completing a year-long ecological assessment before making decisions. Without that guidance, the town declined to gather essential baseline information on one of its most significant and fragile open spaces. Given these gaps, establishing a conservation committee is not only worthwhile, it is necessary. In last year's State of the Town address, the first selectman indicated that he would be evaluating this very issue. To now propose an additional year of study risks appearing less like thoughtful deliberation and more like delay. Darien needs a coordinated, proactive approach to conservation, and that work should begin without hesitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. I think Karen Cummins also wanted to speak. If you wanted to speak, now is your opportunity, Karen.
Oh, hi. Yes, thank you. Hi,
Just
everybody.
Your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Karen Cummins at 19.0 Woods Road South here in Darien. Thank you. I just wanted to quickly remark on the upcoming vote on the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. I am a Jewish member of the Darien community. I'm here with my husband, who is as well. And I'm late to the party. I'm not deeply familiar with this issue, but I do just want to say that I do support the town adopting this definition. I think it's a really important statement that the town acknowledges what's happening with anti-Semitism in our community and nationally and globally. I can just speak personally that it's a scary time to be Jewish today, and it's really meaningful to me that the town would potentially consider adopting this. I think it sends an important message of acknowledgement and support as a great first step. So I appreciate you considering this and bringing it to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. First item up for new business is to discuss and take action to approve a settlement of a tax appeal. We've discussed this in executive session. Can I get a motion, please, to approve a settlement in FR Darien LLC versus the Town of Darien and Federal Realty Investment Trust versus the Town of Darien. These are tax appeals for 76 Heights Road and the tax settlement amount for 76. Let's see, 476. I'll try again. This is for 76 and 154 Heights Road. The proposed settlement amounts would be let's see here, for the combined properties for the 2023 to 2024 period would be $101,500,000 in assessed value, and for the 2025 through 2027 period, an assessed value of $103,250,000. That translates into fair market value of $145,147,500,000. Hopefully that was clear. Can I get a motion to approve that settlement? Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, next up is discussion and possible action on adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism. For this discussion tonight, we're joined by Gary Jones from the United Jewish Federation, who came to see me about this. It's been a couple, 3 weeks now that we talked about it, Gary, right? And he's going to assist us in the discussion of this definition tonight and the adoption of it and how this has been handled in other communities and some of the issues around that and things that we should consider. Other towns have done this by mere proclamation. I thought it was important to actually have a public discussion about this and potentially a vote by the Board of Selectmen. Gary, why don't you introduce yourself, the United Jewish Federation, and the origins and importance of this definition, what you're trying to accomplish.
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me to attend this meeting. Thank you all for listening. And before I say a little bit about myself and the IRA definition, I just want to, now that I have the leaders of the Darien community, I just want to show my appreciation and respect for the efforts that both the town and the school administrations have been doing to fight in the little scourge of anti-Semitism that's been increasing over the last number of years. And your efforts to fight it, your efforts to sort of make it clear to students and others where the town stands on these issues has been very noteworthy and very, very much appreciated. So thank you. So I am the director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of the federation that John mentioned, which is the Jewish Federation of Stamford, Darien, and New Canaan. We're a federation that really covers the 3 cities and towns that are in our name. And we really work hard with each of the towns and each of the school systems to make sure that people understand the concerns of the Jewish community. And as the outreach arm, I work particularly in the interfaith community. I work with political issues that may involve the Jewish community, and basically just try to reach out to everyone in the community so that we can work together to really create a safer, more protective and a better environment for all of our communities, whatever race, ethnicity, or religion that we may be. So this definition was basically came through action of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which is a group comprised of about 40 countries, which works to make sure that the Holocaust is remembered, that the lessons that we need to learn from the Holocaust are exhibited for the world to see. And it became clear over time to them, the people who were associated with IRA, that anti-Semitism has historically sort of morphed to fit whatever the negative perceptions were of any particular community, whether they thought was something that had to be hated or something where they needed people to blame for. Very often that became a component of anti-Semitism. And many of you may be familiar with the old line that communists hated Jews because Jews were capitalists. Capitalists hated Jews because Jews were communists. So it was very easy to put Jews into the box of the folks that people wanted to blame for whatever ails that the particular country was subject to at any given point. So in effort to address that, in an effort to sort of recognize some of the sort of more modern aspects of anti-Semitism, this definition was rolled out in 2016. And what it does is, in addition to providing a what they call a working definition, it provides, I believe, 11 examples of circumstances that would constitute an anti-Semitic perspective, so that people who are addressing anti-Semitism would have a clearer and a more consistent understanding of what is and what isn't anti-Semitism. And one of the most modern aspects of anti-Semitism has been the effort to sort of suggest that their hatred of Israel and its demonization of Israel and the efforts to delegitimize Israel were not related to anti-Semitism, when in fact we know that Israel is the only Jewish state in the world. And for folks who say that the only state in the world that shouldn't exist is the only Jewish state, well, that sounds like a problem. So this organization developed the definition and the examples to sort of help people understand that. And we find in the Federation, but all major Jewish organizations are supporting the adoption of this definition in a place that it could be adopted. It's been approved by some 35 or so states. It's been accepted by all the presidents of the United States since this was adopted. And we are now trying to make an effort to get towns and municipalities to adopt it, just to give guidance to schools, give guidance to police, give guidance to the community about what constitutes anti-Semitism and what doesn't. So that is why this definition is here. And we're hopeful that Darien, you will join our neighboring communities of Stamford and Fairfield, who have adopted this definition just as a guideline to help people recognize what is and what isn't anti-Semitism. And obviously be happy to answer any further questions about it. But that, I think, maybe John, there's something else you want me to cover, but that's the broad outline of why we're here, what we think is the next step in helping to articulate anti-Semitism, because it is the world's oldest hatred. But as I said, it changes from time to time. What constitutes anti-Semitism in 2025 didn't constitute anti-Semitism in 1945. So we need to adjust to make sure that people understand what is and what is not anti-Semitism. The one final thing that I'd like to make clear, I think, is that, well, two final things, that criticism of Israel is by no means anti-Semitism. We criticize our own government. Israelis certainly criticize their government. Criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitism. It's when it leaps to the perspective that Israel is so horrible and so much worse than any other nation in the country that it shouldn't be able to exist, or that all its people should be subject to being murdered. Those are the kinds of things that where it leaps to the need for us to make really certain that people understand it. The second thing is, just because something is anti-Semitism does not make it illegal any more than being racist is illegal. It's not good, and we want to fight it, and we want to educate people about it, but it's not inherently illegal. This is something that does not regulate speech, nor does it impose penalties associated with speech. It's just a tool to help people understand what is anti-Semitism and what isn't. So now I think I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Would it be helpful just to read the short definition that they have here?
Sure. Okay, so here is the definition. And again, it's supplemented by examples which help to make it clearer. But the definition is, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. And so, as I said, that's the definition, not very controversial. And the examples that I cited are there to help sort of answer questions associated with the interpretation of those of that pretty plain and simple definition.
I appreciate that, Gary. Questions from anybody? Mike.
Thanks for coming in and joining us, and thank you for this work. Since 2016, have there been any substantive proposals to change or amend this definition? I know you talked about the difference between anti-Semitism in 1945 and 2016, but how about from that period forward?
The answer to the question, it's a good question, but the answer is no. In fact, there is a belief, at least for now, maybe in 20 years there'll need to be, but it covers the main themes of anti-Semitism that we're seeing now. And really, the effort has been to try to make sure that people focus on this definition and adopt this definition. So there'll be more clarity in terms of how to interpret anti-Semitism. So at some point that may need to happen, but at this point, the focus on just making sure we're all working with the same definitions so that we can all really say the same thing to everybody about what is, and again, and what isn't anti-Semitism.
Thank you.
Other questions? Sarah?
I don't necessarily know that it's a question, but I've spent the past several days speaking with some residents who are Jewish, which is helpful. I am not Jewish, and so I wanted to make sure that I had some input from folks who are, because this is not something that I can speak with authority. I'm leery of doing anything that would relate to Israel. I think we've gotten some feedback from folks I have personally. I know we have in an email. I'm concerned about that. I am, in general, anti-Semitism is hatred towards all Jews, and I am backing the general statement, but I would be leery if we went any further. It's a tough one, I think, a little bit. I think in general, we all want to stand up for our fellow residents and make sure that they feel that they are included, but also felt that we're standing next to them and standing up for them, right? We've seen examples of anti-Semitism in the schools. We've seen swastikas. We've seen, things happen. I think one of the concerns that I have with this is if it doesn't give us kind of a leg to stand on as far as not quote punishing, but what kind of rights and responsibilities, right, does making this statement have for us? What do we feel that we can do or say because of this? If we in this town had an organization that suddenly were to exclude folks who are Jewish, does this statement give us an ability to say something? Does it not? So I think there's a lot of questions right now. I think in general, I am for standing up for my neighbors 100%. But I want to make sure that we're doing this in a thoughtful way with input from that community.
Interrupt. I want to make sure these 2 points are captured. I think the first point, I had a couple of calls about this as well today. There are a number of residents who are very much in favor of trying to do something to clarify and sharpen up how the town views anti-Semitism and to try to join more forcefully in the effort to educate people about that and why it's wrong. At the same time, there are a lot of people who are vehemently and very, very strongly opposed to the Israeli government, to Benjamin Netanyahu, to their policies with Palestinians, to West Bank settlements, to all that stuff. They are very, very much opposed to those policies and those leaders. And so what I think the message is how could the town adopt something like this definition while at the same time specifically not doing anything that's supportive of Israeli government policy or politicians or their actions in this current conflict, and to do so in a way that doesn't cause people to feel discomfort that, wow, by signing up for this, am I tacitly signing up and supporting Netanyahu and the Israeli government? I think that's an important distinction. Have you encountered this, and how can we give residents?
Yeah, I mean, usually, to be honest, it comes from people who very much hate Israel. And you can very much disagree with Israel, as we sometimes can very much disagree with our own government. But the idea that there's such hate for Israel that Israel shouldn't exist, there should be no Zionism. Those are the kinds of things that really we see are mostly the people who have an issue with this. Because as I said, in disagreement with the Israeli government, disagreement with its policies is by no means anti-Semitism. This definition makes that clear. To say, though, that we don't want to have the ability to call people who are saying Zionists should be hung, which they have recently, and not to be able to say that that's clearly anti-Semitism is a little disconcerting. So to disagree with a policy, to disagree with the Netanyahu government, God bless you, Many of us do too. But we see that the people who are being very hateful towards Israel, the people who shot up people in Washington, the people who threw a bomb at a peaceful parade in Boulder, those are people who are very, very hateful. They may never say that they hate Jews, but they hate Zionists, and they think the Zionists are such an abomination that it's their duty to treat these people horribly and to do anything they want to. So that's the distinction that we're trying to draw. No president who signed on to this, no state who signed on to this, none of the other local communities who signed into this have ever said, we agree with or love every policy of every government in Israel. It is absolutely not a request, and it's not a factor of this definition. But if you pull out Israel from the definition of anti-Semitism, then most of the people in the world now who want there to be no Jewish state, and many of whom want there to be no Jews, because Jews may be Zionists, that's a dangerous message to send. And those are the people who tend to fight this definition because they want to be able to say that they're not being anti-Semitic, notwithstanding the fear that they're putting into the Jewish community and others who support Israel. And just one other quick point about Zionism, which just the definition is very straightforward. People who hate Israel and aren't very nice to Jews tend to confuse that. Zionism is simply the belief that the Jewish people should have a homeland, should have a state in its historic homeland. That's all it is. Every president since the state of Israel has been founded has been a Zionist. Well over 80% of the people in our country are Zionists. Most everyone believes that, who don't have hate in their heart. And the ability to say that there should be no Jewish state under any circumstances, when they never say that about anybody else, if we can't be clear that that's anti-Semitism, then I think we can't really be comfortable in protecting Jews from the very specific circumstance that is most threatening to the Jewish people in 2025.
Sarah.
John, with all due respect, the statement that we have that we've been given to adopt does not include anything about Israel. And
well, the examples do it. That's what the examples do.
I understand your examples.
Oh,
I do
sure.
understand your examples. However, that is not what we're looking at adopting. And that is not the language that we are looking at and using for a possible proclamation or adopting, for a use in this town. And so I'm leery of going down that road. I'm leery of creating definitions and putting boundaries. I really would love to hear from my fellow board members on this.
Mike.
Well, I don't have an issue with the definition, and I think, as has been said, I mean, there are feelings that you could have for the state of Israel, positive or negative, like anything else. I don't see the adoption of this definition as an adoption of any affirmative stance related to anything having to do with the state of Israel. So I can see the idea or the notion of giving some of our townspeople an opportunity to be heard on this, but I wouldn't have a problem voting for this definition right now. When I did some quick research, as we've heard here this evening, this has been adopted by a number of communities throughout the United States. And I would be in favor of adopting this one with the caveat that certainly if we wanted to put it to our next meeting so anyone else could have an opportunity at public comment to offer a thought, that's fine. I don't know what alter my thinking that I have right now, but that's where I'm at.
Marcy or Monica?
So first, thank you for joining us, and thank you for everybody that sent in emails or gave comment. Anti-Semitism definitely has no place in Darien, and we all, I think, completely agree with that. I am struggling with the definition part, and I think that we're hearing from two different sides on this and what should be included. So I am in favor of some sort of strong statement of support, but I think, I kind of go to Sarah and Mike's thinking that we should really examine this very, very carefully and vet this with the community before we actually make a proclamation. And maybe it's something like the definition as a guiding framework or something like that. I don't think the definition itself is problematic, but I think the examples, there's a lot that could be inferred from them. And so, again, I think taking this up is a good idea, but I do think it needs to be looked at very carefully.
Marcy?
Sure. I second what both Mike and Sarah and Monica are saying. I had the opportunity to reach out to a couple of my Jewish friends living in the community, and many of them were in full support of this and felt very relieved to be having these conversations in town and to be bringing light to something that has been a long time standing ideology of anti-Semitism that may be throughout our community. So I think it's a really amazing first step. And I'm incredibly supportive of that. I also want to make sure that everyone in our Jewish community does reach out and have a say in exactly what this definition is saying. I, at this stage, would adopt it as is. I think it reads really well. I think the fact that we're leaving Israel out of this is not about a country. This is about a faith, and this is about a culture. And I support the idea of leaving that out of it. I do want to make sure that people within our community do have the opportunity to voice their opinion on it. I wouldn't mind voting on this tonight as is, and then leaving open for public comment to make any adjustments in the past and, in the future. And I want to absolutely thank you for bringing this to Darien. I think it's well-deserved, well-needed, and something that we should be talking about at this level right now. So thank you for that.
Sarah, any follow-up comments?
From me, as I said, I do support the statement. I am concerned about going further, making any statements about Israel, as I said. I would support, as Marcy said, to allow our fellow residents to weigh in. We didn't really have anything attached to our agenda regarding this for people to look at, which is why I think a lot of people were reaching out, wondering what it is that we were discussing tonight. I do support that. Go ahead, please.
I think it's a good point. Why don't we do the following? So there's lots of websites on this. I will attach the PDF that provides not just the definition of anti-Semitism, but the 11 examples that Gary mentioned, which they have prepared. There's a lot of other material that we can send out and make available to others, including letters and resolutions that other towns have adopted on all of this. And let's go ahead and post this. What we could do is put it on our next Board of Selectmen agenda once we've had a chance to think about this. I would say to members of the public, look, I think it's been clear that this isn't by no means an endorsement of Israeli government policy or anyone who is an official in the Israeli government or any actions the Israelis have taken currently or in the past. But maybe we're not doing enough to make that clear, to kind of Sarah's good point. And so I think having a chance for the community to weigh in on this, take a look at the materials, which we will post, and we will have another discussion and possible vote on the 15th or we will take as much time as we need to. There's no urgency to any of this, but at the same time, I think this is important for us to consider as a community, partly because we've had clear acts of anti-Semitism that have nothing to do with the Israeli government here in town. And as a board, I think it's important for us to make a statement on that at some point after we've had ample time for public input and consideration. Mike.
Just to be clear, like Marcy, I wouldn't have a problem with voting on yes for this tonight. I think there is prudence in adjourning and giving our community another opportunity to be heard. Ironically, our next meeting, I think, is the first night of Hanukkah.
Okay, there you go.
December 15th, right?
Yeah. I mean, certainly I am supportive, otherwise I would not have brought this to our agenda. At the same time, I don't want to do a vote unless it's going to be unanimous and everybody wants to do that right now. And that needs to include Sarah. If you think it's prudent to wait a couple of weeks, which I would have no problem with, I'm absolutely fine with that, but I don't want to take a vote unless everybody's comfortable doing so.
I would like to wait.
Okay, we're going to wait. Let's do it. Okay,
Thank you all.
So what we're going to do is we'll get this posted. I will make sure we cover this in the town newsletter. I will have my own newsletter come out again before we have our meeting on the 15th, and I'll make sure this is included with that. And again, if members of the public have a comment that would help us get to a good and unanimous decision about this, I would love that.
Hey, John, I have one quick question for Gary. Gary, did New Canaan do a proclamation or anything, or are they in the works? Are they?
They are next up. We have our 3 towns. We did Stamford about a year and a half ago. We're hoping to have Darien chime in, and then we will go to New Canaan. To be honest, we happen to have a particularly good relationship with your town, and so we thought this would be a nice place to start. New Canaan, we're developing relationships, but it's not quite as advanced, frankly, as they are here. So this, my boss, Diane Sloyer, who's the CEO of United Jewish Federation, thought that this would be the next best place for us to go, and that's why we're here. And I just want to say I appreciate very much your thoughtfulness in terms of this, and I know you all recognize the need for support for the Jewish community, and I'm very, very grateful and be very happy to support John and you in any way you need as you're going through your considering process. Thank you.
I second what Marcy said. I really hope that people in our community that this is relevant for them will reach out to us.
Okay. Gary, appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you very much for coming.
Bye.
Next new business, discussion and possible action on designation of Juneteenth as a town holiday. Jennifer.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just waiting for my camera to kick on. As you're aware, both the federal government and the state government have declared Juneteenth as holiday. The federal government did so in 2021. The state did so in 2022. This board has had some discussions about it in the past. We currently operate under the approach of no meetings. The town hall is open, but we don't hold any meetings on Juneteenth. And I would like to put it before you that we actually designate Juneteenth as a town holiday. Being a political subdivision of the state, I think it's very important that we follow their guidance. And as a unit of government, we should also, I feel very strongly, follow what the federal government sets as national holidays. In terms of how it would impact us, we do have union contracts. And if town hall were closed because it's designated a holiday, a few of our unions would just get time off. So the cost for that is about $38,000 in paid time off. And then 2 bargaining units would possibly be paid for the time. One can either get paid for it or use it, and one would be paid out. So the total potential actual cash out the door as a result of designating it as a holiday would be about maybe $23,000. So that added with the cost of the time off, it's about $61,000. But I just want to stress that I think it's really important that we follow suit and observe the same holidays that have been designated by the federal government and the state government.
And we've had numerous internal discussions about this, not so much about the holiday itself, but really the impact on residents, the impact on our union contracts. And I just applaud Jennifer and Susan Barksdale and others for sorting through all this so we could get to a discussion and potential decision on this tonight. I'm very supportive of following federal guidelines on things like this. And Jennifer's right. I think we should do that. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this?
Hey, Jen, I have a couple of like kind of housekeeping. So Juneteenth, I think the kids are not typically in school at that time, but would our decision impact, how would that impact Board of Ed? And then how would it impact if this was a town holiday, like would we make that decision now as far as like our beaches would still be open, right? But maybe the transfer station wouldn't be. Do we need to worry or make those decisions now if we implement this?
For the Board of Ed, they determine their own holidays and what they observe and when they are closed. So it would have no impact on them. We typically, July 4th, I think is a good example because that can fall on any day of the week and the beaches are open. This being in June would be a big beach day. So I would see us having the beaches open. I believe the transfer station is closed on July 4th. I would have to look at that. I think that would be a conversation we'd have to have with DPW on how best to handle that to ensure smooth operations at the transfer station. That's one aspect that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, we'd just like our residents to be able to use the facilities that they're, accustomed to using. But otherwise, I'm in support of this.
Yeah, I'll check with DPW and see what their policy is regarding if the transfer station is open or closed, if it's just major holidays or how they define that.
Thanks.
Other questions about this?
No questions. I just have a comment. When the federal government implemented this and adopted it as a federal holiday, I was in huge support of it. And for the last 2 years, we've been discussing it and how it's going to impact the unions and how it's going to cost. I just, from the bottom of my heart, for my family, I want to say that I really appreciate the town honoring this holiday and supporting it. And going forward, I'm glad to see that we're doing all that's good for this community. So thank you.
Great. Okay. If nothing else, could I please get a motion to designate Juneteenth as a town holiday for the town of Darien? Mike moves, Sarah seconds, all in favor? Terrific, unanimous. Excellent. Okay. Item number 4 for new business discussion and possible action to create an advisory conservation commission. So the idea of this is by a vote of the Board of Selectmen, what we would do is we would create another advisory committee, and the advisory committee would be like the others that we have, which is a mandate for 12 months. And the purpose of this committee would be to help us shape a potential permanent conservation commission to take effect at some point in the future. The reason I'm suggesting this is that I've had a chance to work for a while now with Bill Cavers. A lot of us know Bill from his prior work on the Coastal Advisory, also an advisory committee. And we've been trying to think about ways to explore how you might do something like this. As one of the commenters pointed out, lots of other towns have conservation commissions, but it's a fairly complex topic. And the reason is that we have a lot of overlapping conservation and environmental responsibilities in town spread out across both professionals and department staff, as well as boards and commissions. And so as a result, one of the problems that residents, I think, have is where do you go to get answers on something like this? Where do we go to for education or policies or ways to think about it? And how are environmental issues best discussed or debated in town so we could come to some kind of resolution? And so I think having a conservation commission could help us rationalize all that, but it's going to be a complicated process to try and explore exactly how we want to do that. And importantly, how the town wants to take on something like that. I think it's important for us to reach out and learn from other towns in terms of how they do it, but we're under no obligation, again, short of state requirements, to adopt what other towns do. We should adopt something that works for Darien. And so I will also post this on the website. And this is not something that we would try to vote on tonight. I really just wanted to start a discussion about this. But just briefly, the purpose of this committee over 12 months would be to develop a proposed mission, charter, and structure for a conservation commission to be considered by the Board of Selectmen and ultimately adopted by the RTM. As I mentioned at our last meeting, I spoke to the Rules Committee about using 2026 to make some updates to our town charter and our town ordinances in the spirit of trying to make things a little more efficient with town government. Part of that efficiency is updates to the charters and missions to multiple boards and commissions that we have in town. And as part of that, we would try to create or slot in a new committee, a new conservation committee that would try to bring together the various environmental and committee or conservation functions here in town. So again, I think this is, notwithstanding the comments earlier, just in studying this, it's pretty important to get this right. There are lots of different players, both in terms of boards and commissions and individuals who have a stake in our environmental work here in town. And it's important that we take into account all of that in trying to shape a permanent commission and do it right. So what I wanted to do was just tee up this discussion today. We could vote on creating the committee today, but I'd like to defer finalizing the mandate for the committee, again, this 12-month committee, until our next meeting, so I have a chance to post my suggested mission and mandate here and on the town website. And like the anti-Semitism definition, take the next couple of weeks to get public input on that and try to come to a decision as to the mission and mandate for the committee at our next meeting. I'll stop talking there. Questions, comments?
Boy, John, I think this is a great idea. We have so many different groups that are invested and interested in this, and we have different boards and commissions that touch on this, that I think putting together an advisory committee, I normally don't like to add another layer of bureaucracy, but I think this is a really well thought out plan. I am 100% supportive. Thank you.
Thanks. Other comments? Sarah?
So I applaud the idea. I think it's a good idea. I think we just need to work out the administration and kind of how this would work. Is this an advisory committee or is this a permanent commission? Like you said, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is this something that's going to have a budget or is this something that's just like a 12-month advisory? I think we just need to kind of.
Yeah, just to reiterate, so there's a difference between the Board of Selectmen Advisory Committee, which is what we're talking about establishing now, and a permanent conservation commission. So the purpose of the committee is this is such a complicated topic with so many players, and to Monica's points, different boards focused on environmental matters. I mean, I'm not sure I could write a permanent commission, conservation commission mission statement today and get it right. So the purpose of this committee is to work with all the other charter and ordinance sort of adjustments I'd like to pursue in the coming calendar year, to work in parallel with that to say, all right, if we were to take a step back and say, how could we set up a permanent conservation commission for the town of Darien, to take a year and figure that out and come back to us and say, based on all our input from, the land trust and people with an environmental background, coastal advisory, developers, builders, all of these people, we think that the commission should be focused in this way, and have actually a committee advise us on this, much like our other committees do. That's really the purpose in trying to do it. So it's a precursor or a working group to help us define what a conservation commission would do permanently.
I think that sounds great. I have some questions. I'm happy to kind of give them to you quickly now. I think in general, under the rights and responsibilities, kind of what is the mission? What output is expected? How would they be working with the different boards and commissions, what kind of authority, I think it maybe is not the right word, but would people have to go and get their approval for certain things? We'll have to think about how many people to put on it and what kind of qualifications for that. And then which boards would they be specifically working with? What kind of defined relationships we have would be, I'm assuming, maybe Parks and Rec, maybe Planning and Zoning, Board of Assessment Appeals. I don't know. We've got some different boards that we could be working with. How does this work with our overall plan of plan of conservation and development or open space? I want to make sure that anything we do in Great Island, if we're having to pay attention to certain aspects, do we need to have certain meetings with this potential advisory? Those kind of questions. A lot of
Those
questions.
are all great.
I can send you an email. Sorry.
No, send me an email. Fortunately, this was a recorded meeting, so I can go back and play that at 0.5 playback speed, so I can, understand it. No, to be clear, I think it's in terms of sorting all that out for the permanent commission. Absolutely, I don't have clear answers to that myself. I think the committee is not going to have any powers or budget or any of that. Their job is to go out and help shape this over the course of the next year. And just from this discussion, you can see, this is not just snap your fingers and let's put in a full power commission next week. I think that's short-sighted. I think getting this right over the course of the year with thoughtful people engaged to help us define it is the right way to go.
Great. Thank you.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the creation of this entity. I think that there are a lot of questions that are going to come up down the road as like how they all integrate, because there's so many entities that we have now that have great citizens on them who have a mind towards conservation and everything that they're doing, whether it's planning and zoning or parks and rec. And I think one of the charges should be, how to most effectively integrate with these existing bodies. We don't want duplicative work. We want ease of governance, and I'm all in favor of that. And that could really help us.
Yeah, and in terms of structure and authority, one of the points that I put in my draft here about what the committee would focus on, one of the things they would deliver to us is to recommend how the roles of existing boards and commissions with conservation or environmental responsibility should be clarified or adjusted to minimize redundancy and ensure clear lines of accountability, stuff like that. So I agree completely. Other comments?
No, just that I'm in full support of this. I think it's great to have an advisory board that's going to allow us to not work in so many silos. I think it's a great concept, and I'm looking forward to having interviews and seating this board eventually. So thank you.
Good. Okay, why don't we'll do a vote to create the committee tonight, but I'd like to defer the mission and mandate, which I sent out in draft form. We're going to publish this, get public comments. Again, because this is a committee focused on helping us get answers as opposed to a committee with answers. I think this is hopefully not controversial, but let's see. And we will take up the mission and mandate for this committee at our next meeting. Sound okay? All right. Could I please get a vote by the Board of Selectmen or a motion by someone to authorize the Board of Selectmen to create an advisory conservation committee for 2026? Okay, Marcy moves. Monica seconds. All in favor? Okay. All right, so we have created that, and we will focus on mission, mandate, and membership at our next meeting. Let's see. Next up is transfers. Discuss and take action on a request to transfer salary contingency funds to various full-time salary accounts. Jennifer?
This is our annual transfer for non-represented salaries. You approved increases back in June. We don't budget them in the department budgets at the time that we develop the budget. We put them in a contingency account, and once the salaries are set and known, we move them into the various department accounts. So that's what this transfer is. It's $71,672 within the general fund and $2,325 in the sewer fund.
So we have this transfer every year, not controversial, and I think straightforward, but does anyone have any questions for Jennifer? Okay, could I get a motion to approve the transfers for salary contingencies as described in this transfer notice? Monica moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have some appointments, and just for public information, we have 3 other advisory commissions that the Board of Selectmen has authorized. This is our Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters, our Advisory Government Access Commission for Darien TV, and the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. So these are all, because they're advisory committees, they are set up by the Board of Selectmen, and they have a charge that is just for a single calendar year. So every calendar year we need to reauthorize, if you will, or reconstitute those committees to operate for the following calendar year and to reappoint their members. So in your membership pack or in your Board of Selectmen package, we have a listing of all the members and their party affiliations that are for each of those committees. And I want to go through and reset membership of a couple of those committees in addition to reappointing all these members. So let me take a moment and describe the reset that I'd like to do. So the first one is for the Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters. I know 10 or 12 years ago, for reasons that are not clear to me, the membership was expanded to 11 members. We've had trouble getting that many people to serve on the Coastal Advisory Commission. And so what I would propose is that we reconstitute that commission for 2026, but we reset the membership back down to 7 members. Reason that's important is that unless you have all 11 members, you start to run into quorum issues because quorums are based on authorized members, not appointed members. So I would like to reset that membership of that body to 7 members. The second one I'd like to change is sustainability. That's also a committee we've had trouble filling out for memberships. And I'd like to reset that committee for 2026 to 5 members from the current 7. And we have people to fill the 7 for coastal and the 5 for sustainability for 2026. We can easily readjust this in the future, but just for next year to set the membership like that. Does anyone have any questions on those 3 committees, the membership or their charters? Sarah.
Just really quickly, have you spoken with some of the members of the current advisory committees just to make sure that those resetting of the numbers make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So just to be clear, everybody is okay that on the form here that was provided in your materials, all the membership for these committees, as well as a few others that we're going to clean up in addition that are not advisory committees, everybody's okay with being appointed to these committees, and resetting these memberships will allow these guys to function a lot more easily in 2026 for sure.
Okay, got it.
Other questions? Okay. No. Also included in your package were the copies of the, I guess, mission statements for each of the 3 committees, now 4 with the Conservation Committee. I would propose waiting on updating all of these until we actually take that on as part of the broader effort this coming year. But all these boards and commissions will be cleaned up in terms of their missions over the course of the next year. So I don't think we need to address that tonight. So to start off, could I get a motion, please, to reconstitute the 3 Board of Selectmen advisory committees? And again, that's Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters, Government Access and Darien TV, and Sustainability, with the reset memberships of 7 members for Coastal Waters and 5 members for Sustainability. All of this for the calendar year 2026.
Hey, John.
Sarah, sure, please.
One question. So we're reappointing 6. How many are on the TV advisory? Is it 7?
I do not have that form in front of me. I will check that. Bear with me.
Okay. I see it, John. I see it. It's 7.
It is 7. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay.
I'll move.
Yeah, well, that one I didn't want to reset to 6 because then I get tie votes and all that. These others were easily reset to odd numbers.
Right.
Okay. Other questions? Hold on, sorry. Okay. Another question. So again, could I please get a motion to reconstitute the 3 Board of Selectmen advisory committees and then reset the membership of Coastal Advisory to 7 and Sustainability to 5? Monica moves. There are seconds. All in favor? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. As I mentioned before, we also have memberships to reset for these 3 committees. They are all current members of the committees. I'll read their names out for each of the 3 advisory committees. So it's for Coastal Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters, it's David Kahn, Sam Bridges, Peter Reardon, Rob Roberto, Marty Masterson, Flip Hufford, and Bill Cavers. So I would propose that we reappoint all of those individuals for the Coastal Advisory Commission for their term ending December 31st, 2026. In addition, for Government Access TV 79, I would reappoint Peter Reardon, Al Briganti, Dennis Cummings, Kerry Wysocki, Jim Cameron, and Mike Wheeler. And then for Sustainability would be Suman Bopia, Lauren Rossi, Cliff Van Voorhees, Abigail Hausberg, and Mohan Hiamanta. So all of these positions would be for a term ending December 31st, 2026. Could I have a motion to appoint all those individuals to those 3 advisory committees? Monica moves. Sarah seconds. All in favor? Okay. In addition to that, we've got a few other appointments just in the spirit of keeping those appointments up to date. I have one to appoint one member, Colleen Calvitis, to the Beautification Commission for a term ending November 30th, 2028. Could I have a motion to appoint her? Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Similarly, on the Commission on Aging, to reappoint 3 members, could I get a motion to appoint Peter Etter, Thomas Dempsey, and Jim Metzger for terms beginning April 1st, 2025 and ending March 31st, 2028? Mike moves. Sarah seconds. All in favor? Okay. And then next up is Monuments and Ceremonies to reappoint 2 members. This would be Nancy Natali, and then Susan Shannon, both for terms beginning December 21st, 2025 and ending November 30th, 2028. Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? And then finally, last up, to reappoint 3 members to the Sewer Commission. These would all be for terms beginning January 1st of 2026 and ending December 31st, 2028. And that would be for Susan Cameron, Craig Flaherty, and Peter Van Winkle. Sarah moves. My trooper. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, that clears up all of our appointments. I appreciate your patience for that.
John,
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the volunteers who've signed up for all of these things again. We have an incredible town, and the volunteer members do such incredible work. So thank you so much.
Yep, I was trying to focus on all this administrative work.
Yes.
You reminded me of the most important point of all of this, which is people stepping up, not just to volunteer, but even a lot of the names that I just read tonight. I mean, the amount of work they put into this, their
100%.
leadership, their help with all this, all right out of their hide with no pay, nothing.
Yep.
I'm amazed every day by that. So thank you for reminding of that.
We're very lucky.
Sarah. That's the most important thing. I would put our volunteers against the volunteers at any town in Connecticut. Okay. That's the bulk of our business tonight. We do have minutes for 2 meetings. We've got the special meeting for October 30th, 2025, and then our regular meeting on November 3rd. I've been through all those minutes. Does anybody have any questions or edits for any of those minutes? Could I get a motion, please, to approve the minutes for October 30th and November 3rd as presented? Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay, great. Thank you. And then for agenda review, we've got an update on the left turn lane on the Road Avenue Edge Road. I'm not ready for that, and we'll get to it. I've got still down here approach for bike and scooter safety. We had a presentation by the chief on that a while back. I'm not sure that there's any new information on that. We should, I think somebody suggested we keep that on the agenda review just so that we're on top of that for 2026. I would be in favor of that. It's a topic that I don't think has been resolved in anybody's mind completely satisfactorily. And we should try to make sure that that continues to get addressed. It's a big issue. Any particular comments or questions about that? Otherwise, we will pick that up again at a future meeting. Okay, great. Okay, our next meeting is going to be December 15th in room 206. As a note, that will be an in-person meeting instead of by Zoom. We've switched these two meetings. And then the next meeting after that will be after the holidays on Monday, January 5th. That is all I have for this evening for our agenda. Could I please get a motion to adjourn? Mike moves, Marcy seconds, all in favor? Stand adjourned. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.